Every reaction channel, especially the women, are just mocking her right now.
You mean you can't keep lying to her, or you can't stand the way she makes you feel because you're lying to her?
Boy, he's got a lot of insight about this, doesn't he?
Both, whatever.
You know, it's kind of interesting.
Look, she can keep a secret.
You're sure?
Yes, sure.
No, I mean, are you sure you want to do this?
I gotta get her off my back. She keeps asking me about this, she keeps asking about you, about the whole thing.
You sure you've thought through the ramifications?
Yes.
So be it.
Good thing I already had the head ointment prepared. You know? I suppose he could have just been doing that just in case because he was getting a gut feeling and he kind of knew where this was going. I suppose that's possible, you know? Let's think about, like, this whole scheme, you know, this whole plan. Worked perfectly. Absolutely fucking perfectly. You know? Think about how many different things could have gone wrong. He could have never hallucinated the right kind of thing. He could have just hallucinated bunnies. Little bunnies, and that's all he hallucinated. You can't predict what this shit's going to make you hallucinate. There's no way. This is impossible. I guess the island could tell him. I suppose. You know.
I'm doing this, Boone, because it's time for you to let go of some things. Because it's what's best for you.
Yeah. What if he had just hallucinated bunnies, though? How would that have worked into him, like, letting go of shit? You know? Like, if people react to drugs differently. What if he was allergic to something in this shit? He would just fucking die. That's a huge risk, right? You don't know what he's allergic to.
Just leave me here.
Whether you stay is up to you.
Maybe the point is how reckless this is, but he has total confidence, you know? I'm just saying there's so many things could have gone wrong. Physically and mentally, you know, with this plan. It works perfectly, which again we could call writer convenience, you know. I suppose that's plausible. You know, there's a phenomenon when people are in a highly suggestible state, you know. They're prone to hallucinations at that point, where you can introduce stimuli to make them think, you know, kind of guide their hallucinations. They do this, they talk about this in Nikita a lot, where you have this psychologist who, like, guided people's hallucinations as an interrogation technique, you know? You just have to introduce the right stimuli and you can kind of make their hallucination go a certain direction. But for that, you know, you would need access to the smoke monster. You need to tell the smoke monster, hey, man, why don't you come over here and go by him and make your noise and, you know, show up and shit. And then that'll kind of guide his hallucination along. Motivate him to get out of this. And then you can, you know, hey, smoke monster, will you chase him certain ways? Everything else could be a hallucination. But the smoke monster could be real, you know? It would really help guide the hallucination, don't you think? Of course, you know, John Locke has no control or say so over what the smoke monster does. I mean, you know, his plan would have been a lot easier, would have been a lot more prone to success if he could control the smoke monster. Because why did he hallucinate the smoke monster? Why not hallucinate a polar bear? Even if say he wasn't going to hallucinate Shannon. You know, I mean, like, why not a polar bear or a lion or a tiger or something, you know? An alien. Why specifically the smoke monster? Just something to think about.
What do you think his story is?
Who?
Locke. The guy's a freak of nature. Highly disturbed.
Absolutely.
I probably killed all his mates at the post office the day his mum forgot to put a cookie in his lunch tin. That was my first impression, anyway.
Yeah, for the first few days, you know. After, you know, there was a point in the first few days where Locke was acting one way, and then after that, he was acting differently.
Thanks, mate, but if there was one person on this island I put my absolute faith in to save us all, it would be John Locke.
Yeah, look at how many, he's definitely got Charlie on 100% on his side, you know? Starting to sway Jack, really, because Jack's seen other shit. Of course, he saved Jack's life, right?
Killed her!
You made it back.
That thing killed my sister. It's your fault. You drug her out there.
Your sister.
Don't play dumb with me.
Calm down.
She died in my arms.
Why is there no blood on you?
Now, let's examine that, okay? She died in my arms. Why is there no blood on you? Now, I guess it's a logical assumption. If she died, there might be some blood. But, like, there's a lot of ways to die where there's no blood. Suffocation. Could have had her neck snapped. There'd be no blood. It's an Big leap. You know, it's not a crazy leap. I'm not saying it's insane that he would say that. You know, I mean, what would have been crazier would have been like, you know, she died, and he'd be saying, why did you have no blood on you? Because, but he specifically says she died in my arms. Okay, so blood could have gotten on you, possibly. You know, but think about the complete and total self confidence and self assurance with which Locke made that statement. Because for all you know, he washed the blood off of him. He hallucinated washing blood. He hallucinated changing clothes because he couldn't stand having her blood on him. Even if he did imagine that there was blood on him, you know. So like I'm just saying that's a massive leap, and it could have really blown up in your face. Because he could have been like, I washed it off, stab, bam, boom. Like you had one chance to use this situation, and you say, why is there no blood on it? Almost as if you already knew the answer to your question. Like I'm telling you, like he had complete and total self-assurance and confidence in making that statement. I just think that's interesting.
What the hell just happened to me? I don't know.
Yeah, right. You don't know, motherfucker.
I don't know. You tell me. But your sister, Shannon?
Another question about that, you know, ointment he put on his head. How much is a strong enough dose to create this level of hallucination? What if he did? What if he has a high tolerance for drugs?
Is that?
What if he has a low tolerance for drugs and he would have overdosed? Also, most hallucinogenics last much longer than just a couple hours.
I gave you an experience that I believed was vital to your survival on this island.
Yeah, I gave you an experience that, you know, I was 100% sure wasn't going to be bunnies. You know, or, you know, you just having a nice day at the park, right? I was confident you were going to have a hallucination that would free you.
How did you feel?
And I'm also confident in the answer to this question, by the way, which I say with complete, total confidence. I already know the answer to this question. Yeah. Because there's so many answers that could have come back at you that would not have served your purpose. But boy, you got the exact answer you needed. It's almost as if you could read minds, you know? But that's impossible, you know?
Yes.
There's nothing on this island that reads minds.
Follow me.
You goddamn right he's going to follow you now. You got you one. Just think again. Just really, really think about that episode. All the different things that could have gone wrong. All the things that went right for John Locke went perfectly right for him. You know? Either John Locke was reading the script or he could read minds. You know, one or the other. And you can, yeah, again, we can say the island told him everything. I guess that's plausible, obviously. You know, that's the way we kind of interpreted it at the time. I know I did. Or we could just say writer convenience, whatever shitty writing. But we know the show has a high level quality of writing. We know they foreshadowed shit that they paid off later. We know that, right? So, I just find it interesting. Up next, we've got episode 14 special.
You can do better than that. I want to take it easy on him. See this knot, Walt?
Completely ignores Boone.
I want you to aim for it.
Because he knows exactly how to motivate Walt. Exactly. He knows just what to say. Isn't it amazing how Locke just always knows just what to say to motivate people? Get in their heads, you know, as if he was like a master manipulator. Who have we seen like that besides John Locke who's really good at that kind of shit?
See it.
And of course he knows, like here's the thing that I only, like in recording this, has kind of occurred to me. What he's talking about, the mind's eye and everything. It may not even be about his physical ability, it's the fact that he can make shit happen. Like, I think the original intent with Walt, and that's a different video, but the original intent with Walt was that he was telekinetic. They'll explain the shit with the birds. If they'd had more time with the character, they might have demonstrated that, you know?
Walt knows his own mind.
Hey, don't talk to me about my son like you know him.
You really need
Look, he's not afraid at all, man. He has no fear whatsoever.
I'm going to have a...
Boone, of course, is going to do it. You know, Boone doesn't realize the circumstances here. That John was not under any danger.
What are you, his...
So he takes a shot in the face.
You're the one that was waving the knife around. He was just trying to make sure you didn't hurt someone.
Yeah, but like, you know, you weren't worried, were you, John Locke? You just
Michael,
no fear whatsoever.
I know it's been difficult to bond with your son.
And how do you know that, John?
To me
well, I guess
I
Walt could have
like
told you. That's possible, right?
Like a boy. He's different. What did you
Interesting.
Say?
Exact, precise choice of word to trigger bad memories of Michael. That could be just writing convenience, you know. Possible. They want to echo. You know, they do a lot of that in the show, actually. That's fair enough. The recurring words and things, you know, they'll come back around, all kinds of shit. They do that a lot. But, that aside, John Locke picked the exact word that somebody in his past had used before. The exact fucking word. Very interesting, you know.
Trying to respect your wishes.
Yeah, and you know, Locke's not butthurt about this at all. He could have just blew it off. Hey, well, go solve your own problem. You've been an asshole to me, but no, he's still going to extend a hand in friendship and try to help him with this problem.
Let's go find your boy.
Yeah, just really. I mean, maybe it's just a class act. Maybe there's no ulterior motive there. You know. Now this time it is a polar bear, and I don't think there's any ulterior motive here. There's been no evidence that anything on this island can control the polar bears. They're just there. But I want to bring your attention to that. It already went past, but look at his agility.
Let's go.
Michael is younger and more athletic and doesn't have any leg disabilities. He's struggling to get across, and John Locke's walking across that thing like it's fucking 6 feet wide. And not only that, okay, I looked carefully. John Locke wasn't holding on to anything. He only had his feet on the log. Was able to not only keep his own balance, but grab Michael and keep Michael's balance. With nothing but his feet, but he's a fucking 50-something-year-old man who is not used to physical activity for the last 4 years. Just amazing agility, that's all I'm saying. Just incredible agility.
I'm just glad you're safe.
But Vincent, he ran off again.
He found his way back to you once, Walt. He will again.
Yeah, we're bros now. It's like you've definitely got Mike on your side, man. See? He could just blow him off, but instead, he's got Mike on his side. That's kind of interesting. Isn't it amazing, by the way? Locke takes him right out to exactly where Claire is, you know? Just phenomenal coincidence. Now, of course, you could just say writing convenience, or the island told him. That's plausible, I guess. Well, I'll tell you, this is some luck right here, man.
Claire?
All right, well, this is getting pretty long, so let's just skip ahead to the final episode I want to talk about. Episode 18, Numbers. In the episodes in between, there's some stuff that might be of interest, but I think I've basically beaten the horse dead at this point. Also, what's interesting about this episode 18 is where you would have had a first draft of a script when they got the news of how big Lost was. First, there was two things. First, there was how big of a cultural phenomenon it was, how popular it was, the ratings, everybody's talking about it, all the news stories and stuff. By that point, the showrunners know, okay, we're in here. We're in here. They would have had 4 to 6 episodes completely finished when they found this out. They would have had 10 shot. They would have had 14 to 15 of them completely written. And these are approximate numbers. I don't know the actual numbers, but this is fairly reasonable guesses. And episode 18 is the one where they probably would have had a finished first draft. They were well into the season before they wrote episode 20, the one where Boone dies. So they said at that point, they knew how popular the show was, they knew that they needed to do something for a really good finale. And that's why, at that point alone, is when they made the choice about Boone. So we know they weren't really even into a good first draft around that time, around late in the year, turn of the year, maybe January of the next year, stuff like that. So that's pretty typical for the writing process. They wouldn't have even had a first draft of that episode yet. So this is 2 episodes before that, episode 18. Probably just a first draft. And a lot of times with the first draft, you're going to change shit you need to change for the overall scope. But you'll leave some shit alone that, you don't necessarily... if it works. Okay, this works as is. We can leave this alone. Let's focus on these other areas. And Numbers, obviously, is about Hurley. There's only 3 scenes with Locke, Those scenes, I think, were part of the original plan. This is the last episode, I believe, where the original plan, we could see any evidence of it. Everything else was written out, So, let's just take a look at these. And of course, with
Claire.
more drafts, there would have been more put into these scenes. Going along with the original plan, if they were going to still stick with that original plan.
I'm nearly 9 months
She
pregnant.
really needed this. She needed to stop sitting around
You saw?
obsessing. And she'd be grateful to somebody who provided that to her.
You move your hand back and forth.
She didn't know she needed this, but she really did need this. It's amazing that Locke knew she needed this. Out of all the people he could have asked. Just interesting.
It's a trap, right? For
I,
catching animals?
she can't be blamed for thinking this at this point. I've seen some reactions where people mock her later on for not knowing it's a cradle. I mean, come on, man.
Thanks for this. Giving me something to do.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like you knew that somehow. Almost like you could read my mind.
Tired of...
Well, maybe I can help. I'm good at putting bits and pieces together.
Well, I bet you are, motherfucker. I bet you are.
You think of a name yet?
Yeah, people are mocking her for not knowing that's a cradle at this point.
For the
Come on,
baby.
man. Maybe she's just dumb, but it's really fucking obvious.
It's my birthday today.
Well, why haven't you told anyone?
Yeah, pretty good shock face there. He's like, oh, okay, presenting a face like he didn't know this, I mean, how could he possibly know it's her birthday? Maybe that information on the manifest, I doubt it. I doubt they have birthdays with everybody. So how could he possibly have known that today was her birthday? Like, that's impossible. That's just silly, I mean, it's not like he can read minds,
Okay, I give up.
Every
What is
reaction
it?
channel, especially the women, are just mocking her right now. Yeah, it's amazing. He made something for you
It's crazy.
on your birthday when he didn't know it was your birthday. Just
Happy
astonishing.
birthday, Claire.
Astonishing, man. Just astonishing.
Thank you.
Well, you definitely won her over, haven't you? Okay, well, those are all the clips. Let's look at the people that are in Locke's camp as far as people that, and how much sway he has over them. Boone, 100% sway over him. Charlie, maybe 75, 80% sway. You could probably talk Charlie into almost anything. Michael, around the same. Less so, but still, like he could probably talk Michael into pretty much anything. Walt, like he's got a really good affinity for Waldo. Walt will do whatever Michael says, so that they're a package deal. Got Claire. I mean, he could probably talk Claire into doing a lot. Like he first of all he found her. She'll remember that. He was the one that brought her back to the camp in safety. He's the first person with her memory the way it was. He's the first friendly face that she saw. So that he's definitely got her on her side, 75, 80%. And Jack's probably hovering somewhere at least in the high 70s. When we think of so much like animosity Jack has towards Locke later, that comes later. That starts with episode 20. Until then, he fucking pulled him up off a mountain, and he asked Charlie, who he trusts, and Charlie gave him a ringing endorsement. He seems to have some questions about Locke, so, I mean, of course, Jack's very strong-minded, but he at least is not against Locke at this point. Now, who's the people that, Claire, or Kate seems like pretty much like Locke. I mean, we've seen a couple examples of that where they're talking about, he's safe with, she literally says to Shannon, there's one person on this island that, Locke is, Boone is safe with, it's Locke. So she at least trusts him to a certain extent. He did have the one conversation, which I didn't show here, but he had the one conversation with Kate and Sawyer. Sawyer, they really haven't had much information. But remember, so the people that are strongly with him, or at least on the fence, we've got Jack, we've got Walt, we've got Charlie, we've got Boone, we've got Michael. And we've got Claire. Okay, who are the people that you can't say are in Locke's camp? Sun and Jen. I don't think they had a single scene together in the first season. If they did, it was really, really, relatively minor. Kate, she's probably 30, 40%, I mean, maybe more. I mean, she definitely, like I said, she made that statement to Shannon, so she definitely trusts him. Got Saeed, he's had that one conversation, which again, I didn't show about the compass. I mean, Saeed's a pretty skeptical guy. Again, another strong mind. So Saeed, we can't say Saeed's in his camp. And Sawyer and Hurley, again, he had the one conversation with Hurley. Hurley is the only person that seemed weirded out by him. He actually seemed creeped out by Locke. Very early on in the season, but, still. That's the only interaction we've really seen them have together. He's not in his camp. And, like I said, Sawyer's not in his camp. Here's what's interesting about that. The people we know for a fact are not 100% in Locke's camp. Half of them are murderers. Kate, Sawyer, Saeed. All murderers. And none of them are, Locke hasn't really made any strong overtures. Kate may trust Locke, but we haven't seen scenes where he's trying to recruit those people. Everybody we've seen him actively recruit are not murderers. They have trouble. They have a lot of baggage, but they're not murderers. I just think that's interesting. I don't really have a theory for that. But I just think it's interesting. It could just be a coincidence. Okay, so it should be obvious what I think. I'm sure everybody's put the pieces together. That's why I did it this way. You can tell somebody something, but it's a lot easier. It's a lot better to show them something. It's clear to me that their plan for John Locke in season 1, the original plan, was what became the plan with John Locke at the end of season 5 and season 6. My theory now could go two ways. It could be that he just died in a plane crash, and the smoke monster replaced him at that point. I don't think so. That's a variation, and maybe they were playing it both ways and see which way they liked better. The variation I like is he died in the 4th episode, his first flashback episode, when the smoke monster comes out. Clearly that's what that is. He goes, oh, like that. And then it killed him and replaced him. Hit his body somewhere. And from that point forward, we see him complete self-confidence, complete knowledge of people as if he can read minds. We see him, he has complete knowledge of the fucking island. He can take anybody anywhere. He knows the weather. He knows all this shit. And then he's actively recruiting people. All this behavior changes starting with episode 19, when they knew they were going to have more seasons. All of a sudden, it just seems like a massive coincidence. As soon as the showrunners realized how popular the show was and that they were going to have more seasons, they immediately changed tracks with John. He stopped being so confident. He lost his confidence. He gets Boone killed, one of his strongest allies. He stops trying to recruit people and basically spends the next fucking season and a half with his thumb up his ass crying and doubting himself, essentially. Becomes almost a completely different character than he was for the first 14, from episode 4 to episode 18. And if we want to shorten it, we could say episode 4 to episode 15. That he was just a complete badass, had complete command, no fear, complete self-confidence, always knew the right thing to say, always knew what everybody was thinking, knew their motivations. Just like the smoke monster did at the end of season 5 and season 6. It's the exact same character. Now, a lot of people will say, and they've made this complaint for 15 years, that the writers didn't know what they were doing. They were making it up as they go along. No, they had a plan from the beginning. I've actually talked to one of the writers from the show, and of course, they've said this 1,000 times in interviews. And in fact, Lindelof said that at a fan convention early on, I think it was Comic-Con between season 2 and season 3, a fan came up to him and basically predicted the entire endgame for the series was scarily close. And he said that's the only person, and he remembered it because that's the only person ever got anywhere close to what they were going to do. And of course, he played it off, as you're supposed to. Now, here's the thing. They knew where they were starting, and they knew what their endgame was. They knew what the final run, what the end game was. They knew what was happening. It's the shit in the middle they were making up as they went along. That's why it may seem like everything was being made up. The network forced them to extend out the series longer than they wanted. They wanted a 3 to 4 season series, and they wanted to know that so they could plan everything and just have it, all go away. But by the season 3, they were just making shit up because they had to fill fucking time because they didn't have an end game. They didn't have an end point. You can't start the end game till you know. Because imagine if they had done the fucking Oceanic 6 shit, with in season 3, but it was going to go 10 seasons. There's no way they could have dragged this shit out. So they didn't know. So they had to wait until the network gave them an end date, and then they could be okay. Now we can do this, right? So it was the network forcing this upon them. So yes, the middle seasons, season 2, 3, and 4, they were just making shit up as they went along because they're trying to fucking tap dance until they could get to their end game. That's why it looked like overall there. So the end game was always in their mind. Now, clearly some things could change. There could be some details change. They could get some good ideas. But the actual end game was the same all the way through. That was the idea they had originally is what they ended up doing. Obviously, like I said, details changed. Like, for instance, Benjamin Linus wasn't a plan. He wasn't part of the plan. We had a pretty big impact on their final couple seasons, right? So, yeah, that kind of shit changed. But the whole idea of the smoke monster impersonating somebody and wanting to kill Jacob that shit, and he's the ultimate evil and all this stuff, and that all that was there from the beginning, and that's what we're seeing here. Now, just to be clear, I said I talked to a writer. Now, obviously, he didn't tell me this theory. I'm telling you, this is a theory I came up with my own. I'm just reading between the lines, But what I believe is what they would have done if they had only had one season is around episode 19 or something, somebody would have stumbled across John Locke's body, and it would have been fucking 40 days of decomposition. They'd be like, my God, this body's been sitting here rotting for fucking 40 days. What the hell? John Locke's been with us. And then they would have realized, and he would have had his recruits on his side, and Jack and Kate and Saeed would have had their recruits. I do believe he would have recruited Sawyer at some point. And so that would have been the final battle. We would have had a version of what we saw at the end of the series. That was their plan all along. That's what they were doing with John Locke. You can fucking see it plain as day. Like I said, you see how drastically his character changed. You see all the things he's doing. And you see how similar that shit is that was in the first season to what they did with him later when he had been replaced. You can see it plain as day. So, what do you guys think? I'm curious. Have I presented a strong case? Do you agree that that's what they were doing, or am I completely full of shit and I'm just seeing what I want to say? I mean, I'm open to comments and let me know what you think.